So you're looking to buy your first buy-to-let investment and you need to get a mortgage, but there's interest only and repayment. What's the difference and which should you pick? So I'm not going to go into what a mortgage is. In short, it's debt on your property, but I will go through the differences and why it's so important to pick the right one. All of this is not financial advice, it's just my opinion. Tick that box. However, when we're looking at this, we're looking at interest only, which essentially is you get debt on the property and all you pay towards the mortgage payment is the interest cost. And I'll go through what that looks like. On a repayment mortgage, you pay the interest cost on the debt and you pay down the capital as you go along. I'm going to tell you straight, I like interest-only mortgages, and they're the best. And I'll tell you why for a few reasons. Again, just an opinion. Well, let me give you an example first of all. Let's say I get a £100,000 property. No, let's say I've got 100,000 of debt on this. So let's say I've got 130 grand property. I'm getting a 100 grand mortgage on it, and interest only, they're both 5% interest. Well, what will happen? So that 5% interest will be £5,000, all right? Over a year, that is, obviously. So that's going to be £418 a month, so let's say. So £418 a month, let's call it 420 to keep it easy. That's going to be your interest-only payments, okay? 416.16, I think, actually. Let's see how that comes out. Well, I want to see.
5,000 divided by 12. 416.6. Recurring.
So what happens in, let's say I've got a 5-year fix and I've got that 100 grand mortgage. Fix means the payment is fixed for 5 years, and then whatever the interest rate is at that time, you go into a variable mortgage. But most people don't, they get a new fixed mortgage at the time, but that's for another time. So what happens at the end of 5 years is, how much do I still owe? £100,000. Now people go, yeah, but what happens at the end of a mortgage? We'll get to that later. In 30 years, I'm still going to owe 100 grand. Yes, I know. We'll get to that later, don't you worry. So that's interest only. With a repayment, the idea of it is you'll pay the 416.666 a month on there, but also you'll pay a little bit more. Maybe it's another 50 quid in order to start paying down that capital repayment. Now, why would you do it? Why would you get repayment? Well, the reason why is at the end of the term, you've got a debt-free asset. But let's think logically about that. If you're looking to build your portfolio, are you ever going to buy in cash? No. You might buy in cash, then refinance and get a mortgage on it. But in general, no. I want debt on this property so I can grow the portfolio. Obviously. So then why would you ever want to pay it off? Maybe because you're worried about what happens at the end, which again, I'll get to. If you get a repayment mortgage, it's not that your payments go up and up and up. Let's say it's 5% all the way through. You'll still pay the whatever it is, 416.6 plus the 50 quid. So let's look at a graph. So if we look at this graph, the way that repayment works is at the beginning, you've got massive interest. So when you're making your payment, almost all of it, 99% of it is actually paying interest. And then that tiny little 1% at the top, that's paying a repayment. And then over a 30-year basis, naturally, the debt is going down a small amount, £50. Then next month, it might be £50 and 3 pence. Then it might be £50 and 45 pence. Then it might be 51, and you get the point. Eventually, you get to the end of the term, and 400 of it is paying it off, and the rest is the interest, a small amount, okay? And then it often looks like that. Now, why is that not of interest to me? Well, for two reasons. Number one, on an interest-only mortgage, I can pay off the debt at any point that I want. All right, so I can do the same thing. Say, for example, I've just got excess funds, said no property investor ever. But if I had excess funds and I was like, do you know what? It's just in my bag, it's whittling away. Why don't I pay down some debt, right? That seems pretty bloody obvious. So then I'll pay down some debt. And you can pay down, for most mortgages, up to 10% of your debt every single year with no penalties whatsoever. So obviously your interest rate will come back down. Sorry, your rate will stay the same, but your interest payments will come down drastically. The other reason is what is the value of that property in 30 years? Now look, historically property doubles every 10 years if it's in a good area. Now that's been happening since the Doomsday Book in 1086. I'm not saying the past guarantees the future, but 1,000 years of evidence you're doing all right. And you always get some knob jockey, if you're watching this, feel free to leave the comment, knob jockey, that goes, I don't think that's going to happen over the next 20 years. Buy to let is dead. Just because it happens then it's not going to. It's like, yes, I've been hearing your fucking blabber for the last 10 years. Talk to me in 10 years when it's doubled again, like it has the last 10 years in the areas we've been investing. Oh, that came out a bit venty there. I do love you, knob jockeys, for watching every video and subscribing. Maybe I'll get some unsubscribes now. And if you haven't subscribed, hit subscribe to make up for those people unsubscribing. Thank you very much. So, if you think about this 130 grand property, in 10 years that becomes 260. 10 years from then, it becomes 520, and 10 years from then, it's £1 million property. I know how hard it is to comprehend 130 grand property becoming £1 million property, but think about 30 years ago. If you go backwards, that 130 10 years ago would have been 65, sorry. And then 10 years before that, it would have been 32.5. And then 10 years before that, it would have been 16,250. So if you think 30 years ago, that same property was 16,230, and I said in 30 years, that will be over £100,000. You go, there is no chance. You're deluded. It's not happening. And yet it's happened again and again and again. And I've got my theory of how that will shape out over the next 30 years, but this isn't the video for it. What happens at the end of that 30-year mortgage? Well, let's say you're young enough, you would then refinance. And by the way, all the way through this process, here's the thing, you don't ever get to the end of that 30 years. What? Why don't you? Because who do you know that gets a 30-year mortgage and stays on that 30-year mortgage? I've never met a single human being that does that. Genuinely never. What tends to happen is I get a 30-year mortgage on a 5-year fixed and then the rest is variable. I get to the end of that 5-year and then I will get a new mortgage on the property. Almost definitely to pull more money out, and I'll get another 30-year. And then 5 years from then, I'll do another one and another one and another one and another one. Until, Jamie, what if I'm not old enough to get mortgages? I'm on my last legs. I've got 5 years in me. Sorry about that. But if you do have 5 years on you, first of all, why would you fucking care? Right? One of two things is going to happen. You're either going to have a portfolio of properties, and what often happens, ignore how I got to these statistics, by the way, but these are true. Maybe I'll do a video on this, actually. What normally happens if you want to pay off your mortgages, if you've not over-leveraged, is you'll sell about 33% of your portfolio off, pay the debt off to 66%, so you're then debt-free at that time. Or what you do is you think about when you're going to die, I know that's a bit morose, and you think about who you're going to leave the properties to. More than likely, if you're smart and if you've got kids and you're smart, you're going to think about legacy planning. And so you prepare them to take on the portfolio. They will then get the debt in their name and take over the portfolio and build it and build it and build it again. Because I'm guessing a big part of why you want to build your portfolio is for the legacy. Going back to the obvious one, the reason people go to interest only is it's lower monthly outgoing. So there's my thoughts. There's a bit of a download. By the way, if you're looking to build your portfolio in 2024 and you want some more guidance that's more one-to-one, then put APG in the comments. If you're new to the channel, make sure to hit subscribe and the notification bell. It's the only way that I really know that you got value from this video. The other way is to destroy that like button. Remember, put APG if you're ready to invest, and I'll see you in the next video.